Incredible development here. Former President Trump has been removed from the 2024 ballot in Maine. Democratic Secretary of State Shenna Bellows issuing the decision late last night. Her 34-page ruling cites the insurrection clause of the 14th Amendment. Maine splits its electoral college votes. This is important and could be a crucial state in next year's election. Trump took one of Maine's 4 electoral votes in 2020. Maine's Secretary of State made that move, unilaterally, and at least one state Republican lawmaker is outraged.
With this edict, Shenna Bellows has unilaterally disenfranchised 300,060 Maine voters with this partisan move. Our nation is a republic. Maine is made up of citizens and not subjects in the duchy of Shenna Bellows.
Let's bring in Fox News legal editor Kerri Kupec Urbahn right now to talk about this. I'm so excited to talk to you about this because this is just amazing. And the Secretary of State herself notes, I am mindful that no Secretary of State has ever deprived a presidential candidate of ballot access based on Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. So in essence, besides making this as a unilateral decision, is she making herself, in essence, a judge and jury as far as insurrection comes? President Trump hasn't been charged with this or convicted.
Yeah, and she's taking away the right to vote from a lot of people in Maine who want to vote for Donald Trump. And that is stunning that a single person could do that, especially in a free country and democracy like America. It's wild. And I really think at this point, between the Colorado decision, what happened in Maine last night, we are hurtling towards chaos if the U.S. Supreme Court does not get involved.
And should the courts get involved? We're expecting this decision in Maine to be legally challenged, as in Colorado.
Yeah, the U.S. Supreme, at this point, I think the Supreme Court has to, because the chaos that's going to ensue. If states start unilaterally removing the GOP frontrunner from the ballot and depriving people of their very precious and fundamental right to vote for the candidate of their choosing, it will upend the entire political process in the United States. I don't see a path forward unless the U.S. Supreme Court gets involved and resolves this issue for everyone.
Yeah, you know, there are quite a lot of states. We have a map here that are talking about this issue, talking about the potential removal of Trump from ballots. So it's a pretty wide swath. A lot of eyes on Colorado there, you can see in bright red. Is this the type of thing where we could see something like this unfolding in another state we've seen here in Maine and Colorado, and then pointing back, well, look at Colorado, look at Maine, and it becomes a domino effect.
Oh, absolutely. I think that a state or a single election official, like in Maine, could look at the rationales of an opinion, say in Colorado, and borrow it for themselves. And I think it's very important to remember, Donald Trump has not been charged, even not just convicted, not even charged under the federal statute that prohibits insurrection. And with that federal statute comes penalties. There are potential fines, prison, and disqualification. The federal government themselves, Jack Smith, the special counsel, has chosen not to bring that against him. Why does that matter? Now, Colorado says, well, that doesn't matter. Colorado state law allows us to do what we did, and that's their interpretation. I would argue it does matter because with that statute comes due process. What the secretary in Maine did last night, what the Colorado Supreme Court did, they unilaterally made this decision, and there is no due process for Donald Trump. There really isn't, because with due process comes what? Rules, standards of proof. Will it be a bench trial? Will there be a jury trial? What are the rules of evidence? These things ensure, they're enshrined within our system of justice in this country to ensure that every person, whether they're Donald Trump or they're me or you, have a fair shake and a fair an outcome. And what they're doing is they're completely pushing that aside and just making this decision for themselves.
Yeah. Speaking of making decisions for yourself, Shenna Bellows ran. She's a Democrat, and she ran for Senate in 2014 against Senator Susan Collins, and Bellows lost by a wide margin. Collins ultimately getting 68% of the vote back then. So this is someone who is a notable partisan, a longtime Democrat who's run for a statewide election in the state herself. And she writes, I conclude, she writes, that the record establishes that Mr. Trump, over the course of several months and culminating on January 6, used a false narrative of election fraud to inflame his supporters and direct them to the Capitol. And she goes on. But what really grabs my attention here is the I conclude part.
Exactly. That's not how we do justice in this country. At a minimum. And what's interesting about all of this, it's a mix of law and politics. So it's messy, it's uncharted territory, as everything always seems to be with the former president of the United States. But one thing I just think that people should think about, people may not like Donald Trump, they may think he acted inappropriately, they may think he's culpable in some of these cases. But the damage that is being done to our political process and our justice system in an effort to make sure that Trump is not president, I think will be far, far more lasting than anything any single person could do. If Donald Trump is not president again, another person will be. If our justice system is damaged and continues to be damaged in this way, you don't have a free country. So I think people really need to consider that as whether they support or whatever they're thinking about this. That's what's at stake here.
All right. Kerri Kupec Urbahn, thank you so much for chatting with us and talking with us about it, and also the potential ramifications down the road and the broad ramifications. Lots of legal stuff happening on the cusp of 2024 election year. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Mike?
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.